Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Connor Nolan, and I'm joined today by Andrew Orozco. Andrew is a dear friend of mine. He was actually in my wedding, and you could see that he's actually at the Rules for Retrograde set. Andrew's been getting around on some podcasts recently. Is seen with Tim Gordon from Rules for Retrogrades, Father Ripperger, Christian Mario, and who else? Andrew, you've been with
Those
Tim
are
for
the
a
main
while.
ones I've been on. I don't think I've at least recently, the past few weeks, those are all the podcasts that I've been on. I was on one a few months ago when we were running a, how do you say that word, a donation thing for Trent Horn's wife.
Sure. Oh yeah, that's right. Anthony Abate was on
Anthony
there.
Abate.
Christian Wagner.
Josiah from whatever he does. I forget the name of
Thursday. Yeah. Josiah from Steubenville.
I just know him as the guy from actual Steubenville, where I knew him as a person.
Yeah, that's where I knew him. I remember seeing him at Chesterton's and being like, "Oh my gosh, Thursday!" And he's like,
"That's the guy."
He's like, "Oh, okay, all right."
He's like, "Why? Please leave me alone."
Yeah. No, he seems like, yeah, exactly. So today we're talking about immigration. The USCCB released a statement, I think yesterday morning. I tweeted about it. And as Andrew and I were talking about in the pre-show, it's just a bunch of niceties. There's nothing like wrong necessarily doctrinally with it, but there seems to be two big issues kind of breaking down the Catholic world. A couple of big issues, but a few big issues. But liturgy, immigration, the question of Israel. That's a big thing. And I think guys like Wagner and Anthony Abate have actually been answering that stuff really, really well. The guys from Avoiding Babylon, they did a great show last night. But immigration is actually probably one of the most pertinent things that us Americans have to face, because first of all, it's no doubt that I mean, I'm just off the Trump train. Like the Trump train freaking crashed and blew up months ago. And I mean, I know you feel the same way, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the big thing for us is that, we're Catholics. We believe in the dignity of the human person. That's good and that's fine. But there has been an invasion, right? There has been an invasion, and it's been detrimental to the country. The country is at a point, and Pat Buchanan would talk about this in times past, that he wrote in was it either Suicide of a Superpower. He talked about it a little bit, I believe, but also there was another book he wrote on immigration, right? And America's losing its identity, right? And those heritage Americans, were they were anti-Catholic, which is bad. But they were losing the cultural identity of what was America, right? Which was Northern Europeans. Yeah, there was a little bit of Irish there and a little bit of Germans at first, but they were losing the identity as soon as like the Polish and the Irish and the Italians and the Germans all started coming over in large swaths, and you can tell by my name I'm of Irish descent. Like there is no hiding that. And you could tell that, Andrew, I don't believe that you're a heritage American.
No, the Orozcos were not on the Mayflower. They were on a boat that went a little bit more south to go defeat the Aztecs. That's where they went.
which is really based.
Yeah, we went with bishops and soldiers down south to go stop a child sacrifice problem we heard about.
Yeah, my ancestors came here and they're like, "Wow, booze is cheaper." Anyways,
yeah, I mean, my ancestors were pioneers. Yours there was beer in America and realized that we should go check it out.
Yeah, right. So, anyways, but the USCCB died. The problem is that there's been a lot with the USCCB since the Trump administration kind of came to power back in January of 2025, and they have not been overly friendly. There's been some statements from Pope Leo. There's been some statements from bishops in the USCCB, and it is a collective body. And I'm not denying that there might be maltreatment of people. Sure, I don't know. I can't answer that off the top of my head. There's always a bad egg. But the other thing is too, though, is that I feel that there is yeah, sure, the people coming up from our southern border, a lot of them are Catholics. You know, a lot of them hold similar views to that I do. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy to have carne asada like literally at my fingertips. I'm a New Englander who is in exile in Southern California.
Yeah.
But the other thing is though is that I want to see our country remain what it is, or else it's going to die. Right?
That's exactly right. The church, in its articulation of in the modern magisterium of immigration, is always laying out for us principles, and I think it's really important that we dive into what these principles are before we even begin talking about their practical application, because the bishop's statement was very, very short. I think you could read it maybe in about 2 to 3 minutes, honestly.
I read it at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, you read it at 6 a.m. on the way to work. Yeah. But I mean, anybody watching this can go and read it really, really quickly. But there are so many principles that are 2,000 years old that I think it's really important we articulate before we even get into the discussion of that document. And do you want to jump into that, or where do you think we should take the conversation?
Yeah, if you want to lead us in the first principles really fast, that'd be great.
Yeah. So it's basically natural law, but also it's been articulated by the church throughout history, really, where a country isn't just a random border that was drawn up and the people who happen to be living in. A country is a family, a patria. All society comes from the family first and foremost. As Catholics, we know this. It's basically hammered throughout our social and political thought. The family is the foundation of society. And that's because the family comes from the father, and then obviously he's the head of that family. And then when a bunch of different families and fathers get together and they elect a way of governing themselves, whether it be a monarchy, an aristocracy, or republic, that's what a society is. It's the union of families. And because we're living in this post-Enlightenment liberalism, like with a capital L, like John Locke liberalism, not just Democrat liberalism, this worldview we're living in, we don't realize that a country or a nation should be the union of families and then that family's descendants. So a nation should seek to preserve that familial and cultural identity. We as Americans often don't see ourselves as successors of a heritage, of successors of founders and of pioneers, so to speak. We just see ourselves as radical individuals who assent to these kind of abstract ideas. And if I assent to these ideas, then I can become an American. But it really, the more classical and natural way of looking at it is that a country really should be about those families that started the country and them having the right to preserve the works of their fathers. So the people of America, these generations, should be seeking to preserve the laws, the customs, and the monuments that their fathers built. And being willing to erase those ideas is kind of a violation of the fourth commandment, really. So when it comes to immigration, we really need to focus on being an American should be about, it's about a historical group of people. It's not really just about an abstract set of ideas, which I think really is the core of the problem of a lot of the immigration discourse. It's really familial. And that's how we have to see politics, as familial, sons and daughters of these people, and not just merely successors in their ideas. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Like you and I were having the conversation just the other day. Like I feel that I have no choice but to leave my what I actually consider my ancestral homeland. Yeah, sure. Like my ancestral homeland would be like Ireland, sure, but my family's been in New England for 4 or 5 generations now, right?
Yeah.
But New England, and to me, New England's the most beautiful part of the country, and I think it's when I think of New England, I get kind of like not teary-eyed, but like there's this warm feeling inside of me that just gets stabbed. Like my heart gets stabbed because New England's been destroyed. Right, Massachusetts is a joke. There's problems in Maine with Chinese drug cartels. New Hampshire's just gay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like Connecticut's in ruins. I mean, like in my opinion. So that kills me. And you were talking the same way about California, and how eventually after my baby's born, because my wife's pregnant, that I just find it tenable just to say, okay, screw it, we're gonna go move to the South, right? Like what Tim's been talking about. Just move to the blood red swath of states in the southeast United States, because truly that's like the inheritors of 76. Now, will I have to give up New Haven style pizza? Yeah, sure. And that's heartbreaking. But not only with immigration, but have we seen with how our government's changed with, say, the 14th Amendment and, the Civil Rights Act and stuff like that. And I'm not saying I'm against, black people not having the same rights as me. Sure, I don't care. Like, yeah, you're an American, dude. Like, okay. But I think the big thing is that we've seen such a ginormous, and you're right, it's Lockean liberalism. And it's not even, but I don't even think it's Lockean liberalism as, say, some of the founders would have seen it. But yeah, can you elaborate just a little bit on that before we get into everything else?
Yeah, that's a great point. So what I mean by it's a fruit of liberalism is that it's this stripping away the identity of the person from God, first and foremost, which is what liberalism does. Is it tries to define humanity and the good apart from God, fundamentally. But specifically here, it's not defining the person as who they are in relationship to their fathers or their ancestors or their customs like that. It's seeing everybody as just their own individual thing, not particularly connected to any past or to any future, and they're deciding for themselves what they are and what they're going to do. So, for example, we humans are deeply relational. Like, who we are it's very much like the Trinity, right? Because the persons of the Trinity are distinguished by their relationship from another. The Father is from nobody, the Son is from the Father, and the Holy Spirit is from the Father and the Son. We humans get our identities, obviously, from God, but from our fathers. Like, I'm the son of a father. I'm the firstborn son. That's part of who I am as a person. Part of who you are as a person, Connor, is that you're like the fourth child to your parents. So the problems with immigration stem from problems ultimately with the family, because we're no longer seeing ourselves and our identity as we are the descendants of a certain people or descendants of a certain great people. We're seeing ourselves as just radical individuals who want to make an opportunistic move to a place whose rules we like, so to speak. It's not really rooted in American culture. And that's part of the problem with a lot of immigration and happening in Europe and the United States, is that there are people coming to these lands and they have no intention to respect the ancestral laws or custom of these countries. They're not coming to these countries to become American, so to speak, or to become European. They're not coming there to, okay, we're going to join this family, be adopted into this family, because there can be instances where immigration is good and is beneficial, right? Where you're saying, okay, I'm leaving my family to become adopted by this family, right?
Yeah,
they're not doing that so much. So now they're coming and they're wanting to put their culture as an equal or even a superior to the culture of the Americans who built this country, and it's in that sense, it's a real violation of the fourth commandment, because it's not honoring the fathers of this land. It's going into somebody else's house as like a guest and say, oh, I need help. Okay, people need help sometimes. Obviously, you and I know a lot of people who we'd gladly help and welcome into our homes. I know you've welcomed me into your home many, many times when I needed help. I'm being the stereotypical Mexican.
You slept on my floor. You were my illegal immigrant.
Yeah, I've played the role, of an illegal immigrant, needing help, needing a place to stay, and you graciously gave it to me at that time. That does happen. But let's be honest too. Like,
I'm Irish, you're Mexican. We all work construction. We all like to drink.
Exactly.
Catholic, so we're the same thing.
Yeah, it's like St. Patrick's Battalion. It's like the same company, different division.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the problem we're facing with certain immigrants now to Europe and the United States is they're not coming to be helped and then leave. Like, I don't live with you to this day. I've moved out, but they're not coming to receive.
You're always welcome.
And leave. Yeah, I might come back to visit. I definitely will. We'll have to do an in-person show down in San Diego when I'm in that part of the woods.
Absolutely.
But they're not coming for temporary help and then to leave. Even in America in the 1940s did that. There was a temporary work program during the Second World War that my great-grandfather was involved in. He came over, worked, made some money, went back to Mexico. It's not like that anymore. They're coming here, and they're not wanting to adopt the customs and the laws of America or of Europe in many instances. And that's resulting in a change of the identity of these countries, where they're rejecting who their biological fathers are, but even ideological. And it's leading to a change in their values, which if in Europe, for example, where there's going to be a change from Christianity to Islam, it's going to be for the detriment of everybody involved. I mean, not to get too graphic, but the only country in Europe where the number of rapes has not gone up in Europe is the country that's been opposed to mass waves of migration, which is Poland.
Yeah, no, and because they care about their culture, because they've been, I mean, literally raped so many times. To put it,
The Poles.
not to be graphic about it, but I mean, like, their culture was decimated. I mean, at one point they were partitioned into 3 different countries: the Prussians, the Russians, and the Austrians. And then the Austrians were just an amalgamation, you know, of cultures. Like, for some reason, the Habsburgs were like, oh yeah, let's mess with the Balkans. So, But let's get to what the Catechism says, because everything you just said right there is what the Catechism says. The Catechism says what countries have the duty to take in people who are in need, right? But at the same time, those people have to and countries who can, right? But at the same time, countries also, the people coming in have to respect the laws of that country. And America was founded upon this republic that these men put themselves under treason to a king in England to be able to form, right? Like, I've been watching the John Adams miniseries recently, and you know, obviously, and I've been reading the biography of John Adams that it's based off of by David McCullough, and let's be real with it. They put their lives on the line in order to form this republic, which, I mean, and you said it to me when you visited my hometown in Connecticut for the first time. You were like, I get it now. You were like, I get why you are the way you are and why you love this country so much. Because I was, as you put it, I was raised in a Disney movie-esque, picturesque town in Connecticut. And I had a great growing up. I mean, like, there was, it was just, we had we had a great mayor who used to dress up in Revolutionary War uniforms and stuff like that. And we have the fire department doing the bagpipes out on like a summer evening. And so that's what I grew up with. That was so important to me. And the fact that, you had your Italian neighborhood, you had your Polish neighborhood, you had your Irish neighborhood in, say, like New Haven, Connecticut, for instance. You knew where you were by what church you were at. But the thing is that that's all gone now. And I'm not saying that, but those people came here to be Americans, even if they kept some of their cultural background. You know what I mean? Like I'm not against the fact that like people come here and they're like, oh, I'm going to open up an Italian restaurant, or I'm going to open up a Mexican place or whatever like that. That's cool. Like, I'm cool. I'm glad that Panda Express exists, but but let's be honest though, but you have to sit there and say, no, like, I'm here to bring the good stuff. But no, you got to believe in the subsidiarity. You got to believe in the Constitution. You got to believe in that. Like, that Chesterton said, Americans are founded on a creed, and God willing, one day that creed's baptized to Christ the King. But that's the big thing for me, that you have to leave some of that stuff behind. Like, the fact that the Minneapolis mayoral elections were based off of freaking tribal lines.
Exactly.
In what, Ethiopia or Somalia?
That's we should say that for viewers who don't know, there is a large Somalian population in what was the state of Minneapolis, city of Minneapolis, and
Minnesota.
In Minnesota, and there's so many of them over there that they are voting based off of the tribal society that they have back in Somalia. And they know each other, who's from which tribe, and that's affecting how policies are getting pushed through, essentially, or how mayoral elections are happening. It's that first of all, there's so many of them that this plays in effect, but they're also coming and they're not really submitting to American values. Like, I don't know if you or anyone else saw this with the election of Mamdani in New York. If only people who were born in the city of New York voted, he would not have won. But they checked it. Okay, and now if people born in New York and people who are immigrants, that together is what got him the election. So there were a lot of people who are immigrating just from these random countries around the world. They're carrying with them these different ideas about how society and how America should be run, and then they're voting those ideologies which are opposed to the ideologies of those people who built the country into power, which is where it's getting problematic there. And when immigration causes the identity, the core identity of what a people is, to be obliterated, then it's not towards the common good. Now, like I said, if they're going to open up like an Italian restaurant, that's fine, but they weren't here to redefine what it means to be an American, or in the case with Europe, or like, for example, a lot of Muslims are going into Europe and they're replacing churches with mosques. They're rewriting the identity of what it means to be a European and turning it into a Muslim.
Yeah, our Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary was just last month. And that's a solemn reminder of what our ancestors, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I remember going, you go to the Latin Mass and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what my ancestors died for against Cromwell and his thugs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, and, I look at this and I'm like, Ireland wasn't really doing anything on the main continent except like
they were praying and beer.
And they were rewriting manuscripts so well that the Renaissance humanists were like, oh, these are originals. I was like, no, they were Irish.
Yeah.
But the island of saints and scholars and boozers. But
yeah,
I think that, and let's get into the document. It's gonna look a little crappy because I'm not used to StreamYard. But if we come here, this is the document. Can you see this, Andrew?
I can see it, yeah, but I'm going to look at it on my screen, but I can see it on yours, just the formatting.
So this is the document from the USCCB, and so like it's just a bunch of niceties. That's all it is, and I think that I want to find the so here is like the meat of it, right? And it talks about how, we talk, they're like, oh, like, arbitrarily, here's this part, arbitrarily lost their legal status. I'm like, okay, there's a problem with saying that. Like, I get, like, if a dude's like a restaurant worker or something, and he's been here for like 20 years and he's paying taxes, or he started his own business, and like he loses his thing, I'm like, okay, like I get it. Like I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a penalty for that, or maybe that he even shouldn't be deported. But the other thing is too, is that, we're at a point in American history where we have to be really true to what it means. We're at an inflection point. We're at a point in American history where, rather than saying, oh, that, bring us, you're tired and you're poor and you're hungry, which is just a bunch of, which just came in from the 1900s. It's just like, as I said, it's like a spit into the face of people who came here to do, came over on the Mayflower and did this and did that and put their lives on the line, quote unquote, treasonously, in order to form a country. And I think that the bishops are totally missing that point. I'm not, as I said, I'm not against like treating people with respect and dignity, because it would, in my opinion, to withhold the sacraments from people in, say, detention centers, which was a thing last week, I heard, that's wrong. You know what I mean? I think that is totally
you can't withhold
wrong.
The sacraments. You
can't withhold the sacraments.
That's everywhere. Sure. Yeah. That's bad.
And as I said, I think that there's some specialty cases that you could bring before an immigration court and maybe sit there and say, okay, like, listen, like, Juan's been in the United States for 30 years. He hasn't done anything but broke his back and follow the law, and say, okay, like, listen, Juan, we have some conditions for you. You're going to have to pay a hefty fine. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. But, you're going to have to go through some classes. You're going to have to prove that like what it means to be an American. But most people, let's be honest, don't know what it means to be an American. You said that earlier in the show. But when it comes to Pat Buchanan talked about this, because I've been Pat Buchanan maxing the last couple months. And I've been Pat Buchanan maxing since like 2020.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've been doing this the whole time I've known you. You've always
you've known I've been yeah, seriously. A good Virginia man. But you sit there and you're like, okay, what do you like? What do you do with the from it was what the number of immigrants that came in from Ireland, England, Poland, Italy, whatever it was in the 19th century into the 20th century was minimal compared to what happened after the Hart-Celler Act
That's
in
crazy. Yeah.
1965.
Yeah.
And I think that and that was and apparently Kennedy was the one who was kind of pushing for that. But even Kennedy in the 1950s, in the late 1950s, early 1960s, was saying that no, like there still has to be a cap on how many people we're taking in a year, like 150,000. And I think that there needs to be a chill of immigrants coming into the country, or else this country, I mean, what, there's a reported 50 million illegal immigrants in the country right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, pal. Most of you got to go.
Yeah, 50 million is an insane number. That's an insane number of illegal people running around. What I want to do real quick is comment on the document, the Catechism, and some statements even from Pope Leo XIV, which talk about the states having a right to enforce their borders, because that's what this is really about. Is does the United States have a right to enforce its borders? Yes or no? So this is from the Catechism of the Catholic Church 2241. The more prosperous nations are obliged, to the extent they are able to welcome foreigners in search of security and means of livelihood, which they cannot find in his or her country of origin. And public authority should see to it that the natural right is respected that places a guest under the protection of those who receive him. But political authorities, for the sake of the common good for which they are responsible, may make the exercise of the right to immigrate subject to various jurisdictional concerns, right? So we are allowed to, based off the various concerns of our nations, do what we need to do to control the amount of people coming in. And it says the more prosperous nations. Now, obviously, America's very prosperous, but we're headed into a lot of economic and political instability that's happened. Well, we've had it for like the past 2 decades, and we're heading into it even more. So we're not really like this great, strong nation that's able to take in 50 million people. We have our own American citizens and veterans who are being neglected and who are dying. We have so many problems here, and we're spending billions of dollars throwing it to foreign countries in the Middle East who are mentioned in the population. And we're also, dealing with problems for taking it in and helping these people that we can't help. It's like if you have, you're a father, Connor. It's like if you are a father and you have your children that you are bound to take care of. And if there are, say, like 50 to 60 like orphans who come into your home, if you can't take care of all of those kids and your own kids, you have the duty to take care of your kids first. Now, obviously, you should seek to do what you can do to help out all these orphans. I know why there are so many orphans in your neighborhood.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
There's a deeper problem there.
There isn't. I live in a nice part of San Diego.
There's a deeper systematic problem that has to be solved with the number of orphans that you have. I wonder where you live, but you should seek to try and help them, but you have to help your own kids. You gotta help your own kids first, right? And that doesn't mean that you hate everyone else, but you do have the moral obligation to provide for your own children. And America can't provide for its own citizens right now, frankly.
No, I mean, you and I've talked. I mean, as I said, like I can't afford to buy a house if I want. I mean, I couldn't anyways, but at the current moment in my life, but I mean, seriously, dude, like the housing market's so starting to settle down a little bit. Yeah, blah blah blah. But who cares about that when there is a huge immigration problem and you sit there and you have an administration that ran on this, and then all of a sudden it shits the bed on it like that. Pardon my French, but still. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can say whatever we want here. But,
no, I know.
I mean, America is not in the state to be accepting 50 million people. I'll give you, this isn't an anecdote from my own familial life. So my great grandfather, in the 30s, he was dirt poor. He had a horrible, small farm that barely yielded anything. And he really wanted to move to the United States, but it was 1930s Great Depression. And he submitted a little form and they rejected his form. Hey, listen, it's the Great Depression. We got our problems. We can't take you. And you know what he did? He's like, all right, that's fine. If I can't go there, I'm going to go back to my little village and I'm just going to do the best I can. He worked his farm, went to mass every week and had 12 kids, and he's probably in heaven. I'd call him one of the holiest guys I know, or he's dead now, but it's like Catholic virtue is saying if the country can't take you because they have their own problems, It might be a cross to bear in your homeland, but you've got to work those fields. That's where God's calling you to do. If you can't go there, and that's the virtuous thing. And I'm proud that my great grandfather, he was like, I got my petition to join the United States was rejected. That's fine. I'm just going to do the virtuous Catholic thing and do what I can in my own country with my family. Like that's what we need to do because America is in a real problem right now.
No, it absolutely is. And you have even somebody like Knowles from the Daily Wire, right? He's been sitting there saying like, no, you got like in the Daily Wire is as well, at this point controversial as you can get. but even Knowles is sitting there saying like, no, you got to go because these are economic migrants, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like American people can't even afford no matter what their cultural background or heritage or whatever it is, can't afford things, right? They can't afford forget $2 beers. Like it's like basic necessities.
Yeah, no, it's people are legitimately living paycheck to paycheck, unable to provide for their own families. And we're saying, welcome more people into this mess. Well, it's like, listen, sure, like what we talked about at the beginning of the show, there are times where we do have to care for the foreigner. Scripture talks about that a lot, and it's cited,
of course, absolutely,
cited in the document that the USCCB mentions. But we're at the point where can you steal from your son to give to someone else? And it's these people, their countries of origin, sure, they've got problems, but they should be staying there to try and figure out things in their own families to be able to feed their people there. You know what I mean? In that analogy.
And that gets into kind of what I've been talking about on the channel a lot lately is that if you want to change the world, you have to change yourself.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
You have to order yourself and become holy yourself. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it, right? Like you sure well know. But
yeah, you and I.
Yeah, you and I, man.
We're not there yet. Yeah.
But let's be honest, and this gets down to like Russell Kirk in The Roots of American Order. If there is no order, you just have anarchy. Like he even talks about in the opening, you read that opening chapter. If you don't have this order, like communist order is better than no order at all, right? And without sound immigration, right, there is no order. Right. Because the thing is that we forget who we are. And that's the thing. I want to promote people in Mexico making Mexico great again. Right. Like I remember being at the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. And right before, one of the speakers was Eduardo Verastegui. The guy who produced Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
And I actually have a picture with him, too. It's great. But he just took my phone and was like,
he was like, Mira.
He's like, mira. And, but the other thing is that he sat there and he said, it was kind of awkward. I'm not gonna lie. I was just thinking about this the other day. It was awkward because he was like, Viva Cristo Rey. We were like, Viva. And then he goes, Viva Mexico. And everyone was like, and this is right before JD Vance got up to talk. But that's the thing, dude. Like, it's like, yeah, sure. I actually, you know what? Viva Mexico, man. I want Mexico to be good. I want Mexico to be strong. Or you have good old, it's like but they just want to leech off the back of us. And I live in Southern California, and they're sitting there going, oh, this used to be part of Mexico. Dude, shut up. It was part of Mexico for 27 minutes, okay? All right? If anybody has a gripe with Southern California belonging to the United States, it was
Spain. Part of Mexico for a few years, and there was no running water there. All the running water and the nice parts were added by the Americans. We just have to say that.
Yeah, it's true. It's just true. I mean, like the nicest part is founded by St. Junipero Serra, right? The mission's awesome.
Yeah, I love that.
And I love going to the it's off the 8.
Yeah.
And but let's as I said, there is no order without remembering the spirit of 76. There is absolutely no order without remembering that. And okay, well, now we have this huge influx of immigrants. Now we have people who to an extent we have to take care of because yes, the dignity of the human person. But that means that the machine gets bigger, and that goes against the spirit of 76, right?
And subsidiarity. I mean,
and
obviously, that's what you're
subsidiarity.
referring to,
Exactly.
but I mean, subsidiarity as a Catholic social teaching. Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is that you're sitting there in the Rules for Retrograde studio. Tim's there in the background, and like he's like, it's like we're not Lincolnians. We don't like dishonest Abe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a great point that you're making, is that the more people come in, it's going to harm everybody in the long term, because it's going to cause the state to become bloated and more bureaucratic, and it's going to trample the principle of subsidiarity, which goes against the country's founding and Catholic social teaching. One thing I wanted to bring up, too, is that there's also an immigration problem in Mexico, where people are complaining about all the Americans that are moving down there. You can look it up. There are people in Mexico. They're complaining that all the Americans are there speaking English and raising the price of everything because the Americans are, wealthy. They're making life difficult for them and trying to get rid of their culture. It's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street.
It's like immigration has problems both ways. It's not good when it's like, depleting American ideas, but bad when, Americans are going to go take over Mexico and change its culture. It has problems in both instances there.
Because America, America is based off of, truly, as Tim has said, crypto Catholic principles. It's undeniable, crypto Catholic principles, but the other thing is, exactly, Catholic Republic.
For all guys. 10 people watching this program, for Abuelito and the random Connecticut.
Shout out to Abuelito.
Yeah. We're boosting sales here, Catholic Republic, by
shout out to Abuelito and my mom.
Yeah, shout out to Tracy Nolan and to Don Hector Cupril, who are watching this.
Exactly. but seriously, but at the end of the day, though, America is, mainly Protestant or mainly just libtarded people. And if I was in Mexico, as I said, I live in SoCal. I love the Mexicans around here.
Your house. I'm at your house. If I turn to the right, it's America. If I turn to the left, it's Mexico. That's my grandfather's tin shack over there across that mountain.
Exactly.
He used to live in.
But the thing is, those people are like, oh, I just want to farm and I want to go to mass, and I'm like, well, I don't want to mess that up.
Yeah,
it's just it goes both ways. And as I said, I want the social reign. The entire point of this channel, and I'm going to plug Cristero because I wrote a publication for them, and you're on the board of the Cristero Party. First of all, it's Chris Plants. It's subsidiarity. It's the social reign of Christ the King. But the American founding has that. Andrew, could you get into the encyclical from, what was it, Pius the 11th or Pius the 12th?
Yeah,
going into talking about the Germans having the right to preserve their culture.
Yeah, so this isn't the encyclical. My German's very bad. It's Mit brennende Sorge, I think. That's how you pronounce it. That's the name of the encyclical. Section 34, where Pope Pius XII, he's dealing with the rise of nationalism and the rise of fascism at this time, and he's criticizing the bad parts, but he's also admitting, hey, there are good parts of this where, patriotism and family that should be fostered in these parts are good. So I'll give just a quote from that. This is section 34. No one would think of preventing young Germans from establishing a true ethnic community in a noble love of freedom and loyalty to their country. What we object to is the voluntary and systematic antagonism raised in nationalism. So he's saying, okay, the Germans and throughout the different countries of Europe at this time, they wanted to create we want America first. They wanted Germany first. Italy wanted Italy first. France first. Britain, etc. This part of these ideologies that were brewing in Europe, where people are saying, okay, we love our culture and love our people, and we want to take care of them first. That's fine, and that's noble, and that's good. There's nothing to be objected to there. Now, obviously, throughout the encyclical, he's going to criticize the different dealings of the Nazi party there, which I'm not going to disagree with there. There are a lot of horrible things. But
yeah, right.
What we can glean from here is that this desire to preserve one's cultural and ethnic identity isn't bad. In Catholicism, following the natural law, it's a good thing. We read in I think it's Genesis, it might be 11 or 12. I think it's chapter 11, the table of nations, where the different families have gone up to different parts of the world. And these different families all ultimately come from Adam. So they're connected, one in the same dignity, but they have these different cultures. And obviously, Genesis prophesies that the Christ is to come and unite all these families, and Jesus Christ has come. And there can be a true fraternity and brotherhood among these nations, not in the gay Freemasonic way, but in a legitimate Catholic way. But this Catholic way doesn't negate these families having their own defining cultural characteristics anymore. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It doesn't negate us keeping these things. We can keep our cultural identities.
Yeah, and that's something that it's just like okay, for instance, right? I'm gonna use this as an example. So I'm having a little baby girl, right? That's my wife's pregnant with our first little baby girl. I'm super pumped, super excited. But my parents, out of the 9 grandkids that they have, right, 7 of them are girls, right? And so when I told my dad, he was like, "Oh well, shit, there goes the family name." And now obviously I'm just on number 1. But and obviously,
you're gonna have like 12 kids. You're
yeah. I remember driving in Steubenville and being like, Connor. I remember being like, yeah, like because we're so poor, I have the option to use NFP. And you were like, you looked at me. We were driving in my truck, and you go, Connor, you are gonna be a breeding bull.
Listen, the world needs a lot of Catholics in the future, and I just know a lot of them are gonna have the last name. That's my prophecy.
Exactly. But that's the thing. He my father also said that he wants one of my sons to be named after my grandfather, right? Ed, yeah. So so Kate and I said, well, we're literally just going to do Ed the second, So Thomas Edward Nolan the second. Yeah. So because and it also works for my other grandfather whose middle name's Edward. So the big thing is that is a small. I just knocked the mic. A small, example of the familial unit being the primary government in society. B, you see that you want to preserve that. Right. Mm-hmm. And, I don't want to jump into the whole thing of the interracial marriage or something like that, because there are good Catholic couples that, say one's white, one's Hispanic, one is white, one's black, whatever it is. Right. And they're good Catholics and they're raising good families and stuff like that. But I remember even have this conversation with our buddy Jack, not Jack A, not Jackass, but my buddy,
but Jack or short flavor, flavor,
short Jack, short King.
That doesn't narrow it down.
Yeah, exactly. Short King, French Canadian Jack. And I remember having a conversation with him and being like, yeah, dude, you just have to. And our other buddy whose mom was from Lithuania, and his dad, God rest his soul, Yaroslav, who was from Poland, and he died. He passed away of cancer. When we were in high school. Pray for his soul.
God bless him.
Good man. But the thing was is that I remember talking about it. It's just you have to pick a cultural identity, right? And you have to pass that down to your children. I remember having that conversation with them in Jack's basement when we were in high school. And the other thing is too is that I want my kids to look like me. There's nothing inherently wrong with interracial marriage. I don't think there is, right? But I think it's also admirable and noble for you to say, hey, listen, I want my kids to look like me. I want my kids to grow up in the same sort of culture that I did. And I'm not the type of person to say you don't have the right to do that, because I believe in the exact opposite. I think you do. And I think that and to get back to the topic at hand, I think that the bishops, the way they put out that statement, it was being nice to the immigrants. And I think it was I don't want to say it was a middle finger to Americans, but I think that it was truly in the most gay way to put it, I think it was insensitive. I don't know how else to put it. I think it was insensitive. It made me cry.
It made me well up with tears at 5:30 in the morning on the way to work.
It actually made me really pissed off at first. I was like, what the hell is this? And, you know, I don't want to talk shit about the bishops because all the time, because Saint Ignatius Saint Ignatius of Antioch says don't do it, so I don't. I try not to do it.
We respect them, you know. We pray for them, but we pray for the bishops, the successors of the apostles. You know, it's like Saint Ignatius said. You know, treat the bishop like you would treat Jesus Christ. All right, that's a high standard. I aim towards it. But a lot of the bishops throughout the whole church, and especially in America, I feel like they are unfortunately out of touch with, especially, but not only. I think they're out of touch with a lot of people, unfortunately, but they're particularly out of touch with young men, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The needs and the problems that young men are facing, and they don't really know. I'm speaking for myself. I know you agree, and there's a lot of young men who are Catholics and very serious about their faith that you and I talk to and with about these things with. That's what I meant, and they agree. Where it's like they're confecting the sacraments validly, great, but they really don't understand who we are and what we need from them. And in many respects,
not at all.
This document is good because it says that, you know, treat people with dignity. No one's going to disagree with that. You know, I don't know what's going on in a lot of these centers. I don't know what the media says or whatever, but if they're not treating them well, obviously you got to call them out for that. They were, like you told me, they were restricting the sacraments. Okay, that's bad. So it's good that they're saying, okay, treat these people humanely, but they're not really addressing the crisis that this country is going through and that the American Catholics want them to discuss these things. They're really not, unfortunately. And this document, I think, would have been a lot better if there were sections talking about the problems that we're facing. There's one good part of this document that I really liked. I think we should read out. It says, "We recognize the nations have a responsibility to regulate their borders and to establish a just and orderly immigration system for the sake of the common good." So we have the right to enforce immigration laws. They are in complete agreement with that. And they even say right after that, without such processes, immigrants face the risk of trafficking and other forms of exploitation. So immigration laws that are strict and that are good and that are clear are not only beneficial for the people of the native land, but even for the immigrants. And I think that was like one of the best parts of the document, where they're addressing, okay, they're not denying that we have the right to regulate these things, and they're emphasizing a lot, you know, the importance of the dignity of the person. No one here is denying that. Again, like we said, Scripture and the tradition are they emphasize the importance of taking care of migrants and pilgrims and so on and so forth. But it can't get to the point where it rewrites your cultural identity. I mean, this is what a lot of the laws of the Old Testament were about, but the Israelites and the Canaanites, where it's like, okay, you can't let the Canaanites change your cultural identity from a God-fearing people to a people who are involved in demonic sacrifice and worship. Like, when two people groups meet, they either unite under a common principle or one of them defeats each other. It's that simple. And what we're dealing with now is that people are coming to this country and they're not wanting to be Christian in a Christian republic, or in Europe. They're not wanting to be in Christian countries. They're wanting to come and change it. They're like erecting this gigantic demon monkey temple in like North Carolina, like this Hindu demon monkey temple. Like they're coming to change the identity of America, and that's not something that we should allow, because America is founded on, you know, crypto-Catholic principles, but it's a Christian nation. Although ever since the 40s, that Supreme Court case, I think it's Everson versus Board of Education.
Board of Education, yeah. Everson versus, it was 47.
It's 47. Yeah, you're really good at the American history dates, so I appreciate that. So ever since that, we've tried to distance ourselves from our Christian identity, but we shouldn't let immigration change our Christian identity. If people want to immigrate, it's because they're being adopted into a family. And when you're adopted into a family, you have to accept the responsibilities of that family. And those responsibilities should be upholding Christian principles and the principles of our founding, which is subsidiarity.
And this gets into like stuff that St. Thomas Aquinas talks about. He talks about in question 105, Article 3 of the Summa. He talks about this. Prima Secundae, yeah. He says, he talks about how the foreigner should be treated, right? Like how to take them into your society. And essentially what he says is that this person isn't really embedded into the society for 2 or 3 generations.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. You're not embedded into the society for 2 or 3 generations. Right.
Mhm.
Like you're part of something else. And it's just like, wait a second, like, and I've seen it in my own everyday life. Good people who I really, really like, right? And I'm not upset that they're quote unquote here. You know what I mean? But they're like, oh no, like I'm still part of this cultural heritage, and I'm like, like I'm not upset that like you hold on to certain things from say another culture. Now, like I don't want like I'm not trying to be like targeting it, but let's be honest, I don't want Hindus bringing in their poop festivals. You know what I mean? like I don't want people bringing in their poop festivals, but it's just like but at the same time too, it's just like, okay, dude, like how are you on you can't serve 2 masters. You have to choose.
You can't serve 2 masters. You can't.
You have to serve the United States. Now, I'm not saying that like you got to go die in foreign wars for oil or Israel, but and that's another topic that I do want to talk to you about one day.
That'll be a fun episode.
Romans 9 through 11. We got to talk about it.
Romans 9 through 11, Apocalypse 3, a lot of fun stuff to dive into.
Delexi, was it Delexi?
No. Yeah, or Delexi Tay, yeah. For the knowing ones.
I have loved you. That's
for the knowing ones, right there.
Yeah. So Pope Leo based. I'm gonna pull a Wagner there for a second.
You're gonna be a Christian Wagner appreciator.
I'm gonna be a Christian Wagner appreciator for a brief moment.
He's a good guy.
He is a good guy. I've never met him, but I know that
you got to have him on your podcast. You got to get him on.
If it ever blows up more than like 10 people, sure.
Yeah.
I know he's moving to North Dakota, so I know he's a little busy.
Is that public? Yeah. Pray for him in his move.
Yeah, he mentioned on his stream tonight.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the only way I know that. So, but anyways, to get back to it, but Thomas Aquinas talks about this, and we're talking about small little cities, these little
cities, fiefdoms, barely like chunks of land that are like smaller than New Jersey. This is what we're dealing with.
Small, like the size of Rhode Island. Like Rhode Island's a good little subsidiary in size.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like even Connecticut, for instance, you could break it up into like 6 different states by county. You just could. Fairfield County is residential Manhattan. The Northwest Hills, I forget which county that is, over by Torrington. That's all freaking Litchfield County. That's like just people who live in the woods. It's that's the thing. Like you could break up Connecticut into 6 different states, and there's only 3 million people there. Connecticut's a weird place. It's a weird place.
It's so diverse. I wouldn't believe it
is so diverse.
My eyes.
It's a great little place, so I do love it. Very historical. Yeah, but that's how I feel about it. I thought that what the bishops did say was kind of just really not feeling out the situation, and we know that the bishops have a really bad grasp on the situation as a whole. Even Pope Leo with like the whole Latin Mass, we're going to make the 2002 Missal thing. I don't know whether he's going to abrogate it. He can't. I don't think he can abrogate the Latin Mass, but
there's good arguments that he can't. I don't have the book with me, but Father Ripperger has a good book on it. If any of the 10 people listening are interested in the topic, just look it up.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing, though. I think that like the bishops are so out of touch, and no wonder people are flocking to Fuentes. I remember I was watching Fuentes the other night, maybe last week, and somebody brought up the quote from the Catechism, and Fuentes, like by memory, quoted the Catechism. He's like, "You left out the other half, dummy.
Yeah.
You left out the other half where it talks about immigration." And I thought that was really, really, really good of him to say that. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about, as I said, and you and I agree, we're not talking about punching immigrants in the face.
No.
Like, get out of here, brownie. Like, I don't.
Nobody. I don't know anybody. Do these people even exist? Like these caricatures of people who are like, like that meme online with the guy with the jaw that extends out, and he's like a cop, and he's like beating people up. Like I don't know.
Right. Like his
like,
body cam's still getting made from the minerals in Africa right now. Like, like no, dude. Like we're not talking about Clayton Bigsby. We're talking about. We're not talking about Dave Chappelle's Clayton Bigsby. We're talking about. We're talking about. We're talking about just people who are concerned about this country, and that's the virtue of patria. Yes. That's the virtue of patria. Yeah. So I think you and I are in agreement on this. I think this was a good response to what has come out. Because nobody has talked about this statement from the USCCB thus far. I've seen nobody. Nick Cavazos on Twitter today, you saw that I tweeted him about it. He was no one's talked about this. And I'm like, well, I'm breaking the ice.
This is groundbreaking territory. This is,
groundbreaking territory.
The Connor Nolan show takes off. We're going places nobody else will go.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. But anyways, I think it's a good place to end. Andrew, I appreciate you joining me. You're one of my closest friends. You are my brother. You're my brown brother from another mother.
Amen.
And Amen, I know your mom would take me in any day because she's just the sweetest woman.
Yeah, and I know your mom. I know your mom would gladly have me at her house.
No, my mom was like, my mom wants you to go visit her back home. So,
I know. I've got to make my way back to Connecticut at some point, but first back to California to see my own people, and we'll do a show in person there.
Absolutely. And Andrew, do you is there anything that you want to plug yourself right now, or?
Well, I think everybody watching this has my cell number, but
yeah, right. Yeah.
But if anybody else,
just in case this does happen to,
this is going to go viral. This is going to be a viral video because we're going into territory nobody wants to touch. So this is going to go viral.
Exactly. I have no problem saying what I just said.
My Twitter is Andrew. Then it's the letter 0 ROZCO. It's like my own name was taken. I don't know who the other Andrew Orozco is out there, but he's taking up all of my names on every social media. I'm always like some variation of my own name. So that's my Twitter. It depends when this is coming out. I want to start a YouTube channel, but I don't know if that'll be out yet. I've written like an article or two, and I help run Chris Plantz's Cristero Party blog. It's the Cristero Party. I think that's, if you just type that into the internet, you'll find the website for that.
I'll post the link in the description below, and I'll also show it right now.
It's like a grassroots effort that I'm helping him with to promote Catholic social teaching and politics. It's very, very grassroots, very, very much ground floor beginning. So we don't have too much there, but he and some other guys have written some articles. If anybody's interested in reading and looking at that, there's some great stuff. I think if you go to conversation let's leave it there. That's good. And this is I'm coming at you live from the Rules for Retrogrades studio. It's a show that my dear friend Timothy J. Gordon produces and runs and does. It's a great show, great Catholic political commentary on a lot of things. You should check it out if you haven't seen it. He's got a lot of great books. Some of them are right here. You should definitely read them. Especially
my wife told me that she wants me to buy her case for ask your
husband. Right? Hey, you better get it. You should get it signed, Connor. Get it signed.
I should. You know what? I will Venmo Tim, and if he will sign it, him and Steph will sign it. I'll Venmo him. I'll Venmo him $5 extra.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, we talked a lot about restoring the family in this podcast, and the family being as the center of culture and society. They do actually do a lot of work on Catholic teaching on the family and marriage and combating a lot of the problems of feminism. So if you are interested in fighting your political problems by just the right way, a good way, by being your own patriarch, having your own family, you should definitely check out their content. But yeah, there's parting shots. The Book of Exodus tells us to be kind to the traveler. We're definitely going to be kind to the traveler, but at the same time,
absolutely,
society and countries are familial. We have to deal with the problems in our own family, and if you want to join our family, you have to be adopted. You have to consent to the rules of the family you're joining. You can't join a family to subvert it and change it from the inside, because that's a violation of the fourth commandment. And we wish and pray and hope for our bishops to address these legitimate points if they haven't been. But I don't disagree with anything that they explicitly said in that document. I just think
neither do I. I just think
it was lacking in a lot of places, but everything they said was
absolutely
was good. You know, be kind to your local Mexican or whatever. But
yeah, right.
but
Be
I
kind
not
to
enough to
Jose.
say. Yeah, be kind to Jose.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for joining, all 10 of you, and hope to see you guys soon. Andrew, thanks so much for joining, man.
Anytime. God bless.
God bless.